5 days ago, a man walked into the same hotel as the President of the United States, took a selfie in the mirror with a shotgun and a pistol strapped to his body, booked his room 3 weeks in advance, rode a train across the entire country, and almost pulled off something that would have stopped this nation cold. And right now, surveillance photos just dropped showing exactly what happened inside that hotel, frame by frame, flash by flash, and what those photos reveal about how close we actually came to witnessing one of the darkest moments in American history should send a chill down every single person's spine. This is not political spin. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is documented. This is charged. And this is playing out in real time right now in a Washington, D.C. federal courtroom. So before you scroll past this, you need to watch every single second of what we're about to break down, because the full picture of what happened at the White House Correspondents Dinner on April 25th, 2026 is something the mainstream media is already rushing past, and you deserve to understand exactly what went down. And real quick, if nobody in your circle has been breaking this down for you in plain language, without the spin, without the agenda, without the noise, that's exactly why NationPulse exists. Hit that subscribe button right now. Join the people who actually want to know what's happening in this country. This is a movement, not just a channel. Now let's get into it. Let's set the scene, because the details here matter more than you might think. It's Saturday night, April 25th, 2026. The White House Correspondents' Dinner is back, and for the first time ever as a sitting president, Donald Trump is attending. First Lady Melania Trump is by his side. Vice President J.D. Vance is in the room. The Second Lady is there. The ballroom at the Washington Hilton in Washington, D.C. is packed wall to wall with journalists, White House officials, celebrities, and some of the most recognizable faces in American politics. This is one of the most high-profile nights of the political calendar. Security is heavy. There are metal detectors, 2 magnetometers stationed outside the ballroom entrance. Secret Service agents are positioned throughout the hotel. TSA agents who routinely partner with Secret Service for presidential events are there too. There are plainclothes security personnel. By any reasonable measure, this should be one of the most secure rooms in America on this particular night. And that's what makes what happened next so alarming. At approximately 8:40 p.m., a 31-year-old man from Torrance, California, named Tomas Allen, leaves his room on the 10th floor of the Washington Hilton. Not a stranger, not a random intruder, a hotel guest. He checked in the night before on April 24th. He had a reservation he booked weeks earlier. He knew exactly where he was going because he had been planning this for a very, very long time. He is dressed in black. He is carrying a Mossberg 12-gauge pump-action shotgun. He has a Rock Island Armory 38 caliber pistol. He has multiple knives. He has placed his weapons inside a black bag, and he uses an interior stairwell, deliberately bypassing the areas of the hotel with the heaviest foot traffic and security presence to reach the terrace level of the hotel directly outside the foyer leading to the ballroom. Now, this is where the surveillance photos that just came out become absolutely critical. Images obtained by the Washington Post from surveillance cameras positioned outside that ballroom capture the moment in real time. You can see Cole Allen charging toward the security checkpoint. You can see Secret Service agents reacting, breaking down one of the magnetometers as the suspect bolts through. You can see other agents responding, moving fast, hands going to weapons. A TSA agent, a plainclothes security guard seen in one frame with his sidearm already unholstered, and then, captured on camera, you can see the muzzle flashes. One Secret Service agent draws his weapon and fires. The photos show 4 visible muzzle flashes. Federal prosecutors say in a Wednesday court filing that the agent fired 5 shots total. Not one of those shots struck Cole Allen. But here's the part that doesn't get said loudly enough. Cole Allen fired too. He was holding that Mossberg 12-gauge shotgun with both hands raised, parallel to the ground, aimed in the direction of the stairs descending into the ballroom, where the President of the United States, the Vice President, the First and Second Ladies, and hundreds of other Americans were seated at dinner. He fired once, one shot from a 12-gauge at close range in a hotel corridor, and a Secret Service officer wearing a bulletproof vest took that shot to the chest. Let that land for a second. An agent was shot at a security checkpoint outside a ballroom where the president was sitting on American soil in 2026. The officer was taken to a hospital. His injuries, thankfully, were described as minor. The vest did its job. But U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, who now leads the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office, made something crystal clear when reporters asked whether the agent had been hit by friendly fire. Her answer: the agent did not shoot himself. Cole Allen shot a federal officer. After the shot, Allen fell to the ground. He was tackled and apprehended. He was transported to a hospital for evaluation, not because agents shot him, but because of injuries sustained in the takedown. And then the story of who this man was and what he had been planning began to unravel in ways that are frankly stunning. Let's talk about who Cole Thomas Allen actually is, because when you look at this man's profile, nothing about it fits the picture that people imagine when they think about would-be assassins. He was 31 years old, a resident of Torrance, California, a quiet suburb in the greater Los Angeles area. His neighbors described him as relatively new to the block, having moved in only about 6 months before the attack. He had an engineering degree from Caltech, the California Institute of Technology, one of the most prestigious universities in the United States, which he earned in 2017. He went on to earn a master's degree in computer science from California State University, Dominguez Hills in 2025. His professors described him as an excellent student. One professor told the Associated Press that Allen always sat in the first row of class, paid close attention, and regularly emailed with questions about coursework. He worked as a tutor for a company called C2 Education in Torrance. He had been employed there part-time since March 2020. He won a Teacher of the Month award from the company in December 2024. This is a man with 2 advanced degrees, a steady job, a reputation as a dedicated teacher, and neighbors who had no idea anything was wrong. He doesn't fit the profile most people would imagine, and that is exactly why this case is so deeply unsettling. Because what the evidence shows is that Cole Allen had been building toward this moment for a very long time, quietly, methodically, and with a level of premeditation that federal prosecutors are now calling extensive. Let's walk through the timeline because the DOJ's court filing lays this out in detail that is nothing short of chilling. On April 6, 2026, nearly 3 weeks before the attack, Allen is at home in California. He picks up his phone and searches White House Correspondents Dinner 2026. He visits the official WHCA website. He reads about the event. He checks the schedule. He looks at who's expected to attend. And on that same day, April 6th, he books a hotel room at the Washington Hilton, the very same hotel where the dinner will be held, 3 nights, April 24th through the 26th. Think about what that means. 3 weeks out, he locks in his location, he knows where he's going, he knows why, and from that point forward, he starts preparing. On April 16th, he goes back to his phone. He's reading articles about the dinner again, the host, CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang, the expected attendees, the schedule. He purchases a one-way Amtrak train ticket from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. via Chicago. On April 21st, he books a ride share to Los Angeles Union Station. He boards the Southwest Chief Amtrak train to Chicago. From Chicago, he transfers to the Floridian and rides it all the way to Washington, D.C., arriving on the afternoon of April 24th. He checks into the Washington Hilton. He has with him a Mossberg 12-gauge pump-action shotgun that he purchased from a California firearms dealer on August 17th, 2025. He has a Rock Island Armory 38 caliber pistol purchased in October 2023. He has knives. He transported all of this across state lines by train. On the night of April 25th, inside his 10th floor hotel room, Cole Allen takes a selfie in the mirror, weapons visible. And then prosecutors say he checks a website, presidential schedule, civic tracker, to confirm Trump's movements. He watches a live stream of the dinner. He watches video of Trump arriving at the hotel. He watches the president walk in. At 8:30 p.m., a series of pre-scheduled emails set to send automatically go out to members of his family. The email is titled Apology and Explanation. He signed it with a name, Cole Cold Force Friendly Federal Assassin Allen. 10 minutes after the emails go out, he's moving. Now let's talk about the manifesto, because what Cole Allen left behind tells you everything about his state of mind, and it raises questions that the entire country is now wrestling with. Federal prosecutors and senior U.S. officials confirmed that Allen left a written document, a manifesto, that was found inside the hotel. He also sent writings to members of his family before the attack. One family member, after seeing what was sent, contacted police. His sister later told the Secret Service that her brother had a tendency to make radical statements and had referenced a plan to do something to fix the issues with today's world. Police were contacted, but the attack happened before anyone could intervene. The manifesto itself, the portions of which have now been made public, is written in the voice of someone who believes he is acting on principle. He writes that he is a citizen of the United States and that what his representatives do reflects on him. He writes that he was no longer willing to permit what he calls a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat his hands with his crimes, a reference, though without naming him directly, widely understood to be aimed at President Trump. He writes that this is the first real opportunity he's had to act, and he took it. He also described what he called his expected rules of engagement, noting that administration officials, but not all officials, were his intended targets. He wrote about lax hotel security, saying he had expected more resistance than he encountered. He sent apologies to his parents, to colleagues, to his students, to bystanders. He wrote that he did not expect forgiveness. Federal prosecutors put it plainly in their court filing. The defendant's actions were premeditated, violent, and calculated to cause death. It was, at its core, an anti-democratic act of political violence. And here is where this story intersects with a larger, more uncomfortable national conversation that cannot be avoided. A Blue Sky account verified by NBC News as belonging to Allen included recent posts critical of President Trump, critical of the administration's policies, and critical of U.S. involvement in international conflicts. Federal Election Commission records show that in October 2024, Allen donated $25 to Act Blue, a Democratic Party fundraising platform in support of Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. After the attack, a social media post by former President Barack Obama, referencing the political climate, went viral and was viewed nearly 52 million times, sparking significant controversy and outrage from conservatives who pointed to the manifesto and Allen's apparent political motivations as context for what that post did or didn't implicitly condone. This is the firestorm that is now burning around this case, and NationPulse is not going to pretend it doesn't exist because you deserve the full picture, even when the full picture is complicated. Political violence is not a left issue or a right issue, it is an American issue. And what just happened at the Washington Hilton is the third apparent assassination attempt against Donald Trump since 2024. The first was in Butler, Pennsylvania in July 2024, where Trump was grazed by a bullet at a campaign rally. The second was in September 2024, when a man with a rifle was found near Trump's golf club in West Palm Beach. And now this. 3. Attempted assassinations. Think about that for a moment. We are living in a period of American history where a sitting president has survived 3 separate attempts on his life in less than 2 years. That is not a political talking point. That is a national emergency level pattern that demands a real, honest, serious conversation, not just cable news outrage and social media hot takes. Now let's go back to those surveillance photos because they also reveal something important about the security response, both what worked and what raises questions. When Cole Allen ran through that magnetometer, agents reacted fast. The images show Secret Service personnel breaking down equipment and moving toward the threat almost immediately. An agent drew his weapon and fired 5 shots. A plainclothes guard unholstered his sidearm. The response was rapid and coordinated. But here's the question the surveillance photos implicitly raise. How did a man carrying a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives manage to check into the same hotel as the president, ride an elevator to his room, walk through interior corridors, and approach a security checkpoint before anyone stopped him? The court documents explain that Allen used an interior stairwell to bypass the most heavily monitored areas of the hotel. He navigated the building with intention. He had been there since the previous evening, familiarizing himself with the layout. He had done reconnaissance. This is exactly why the shooting has now sharpened focus on President Trump's proposal to build a dedicated ballroom at the White House itself, one that would give the president a secure, purpose-built event space rather than requiring him to attend events at hotels and venues that by their nature house hundreds of ordinary guests with their own room keys and their own access to the building's interior spaces. That conversation is happening right now at the highest levels of the federal government, and it is a conversation worth watching. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro has spoken publicly about the case and has been unambiguous. Cole Allen faces the possibility of life in prison. The charges against him, attempting to assassinate the President of the United States, Transporting firearms across state lines with intent to commit a felony and discharging a firearm during a crime of violence carry enormous potential sentences. Pirro described the case as solid, pointing to what she called extensive premeditation, the weeks of planning, the cross-country travel, the advance hotel booking, the transport of weapons across state lines. The FBI's Washington field office is continuing to investigate. Authorities say they are working to map Allen's full digital footprint, every search, every message, every account, every communication, to determine whether anyone else knew, whether anyone helped, and whether there are other threats that emerged from his network. At this point, investigators believe he acted as a lone wolf, but the investigation is ongoing. And as Pirro noted, additional charges are expected as more evidence is uncovered. Let's zoom out for a moment, because the story of Cole Allen, the Caltech-educated engineer, the teacher of the month, the quiet neighbor who nobody suspected, is also a story about something bigger that is happening in this country right now. There is a level of political hatred and political rage that has reached a temperature in America that should alarm every single one of us, regardless of which side of the aisle we are on. When a 31-year-old man with 2 advanced degrees, a steady job, and a community that respected him decides the answer to his political frustrations is to take a shotgun into a hotel and try to kill the President of the United States, that is not just a crime. That is a symptom, and the symptom is being fed. It is being fed by rhetoric that dehumanizes political opponents. It is being fed by media ecosystems that reward outrage over understanding. It is being fed by a culture where political enemies are not just disagreed with, they are hated, where they are not just opposed, they are seen as existential threats to be eliminated. Cole Allen did not emerge from a vacuum. He emerged from a country where the temperature has been rising for years, and where the consequences of that heat are now showing up in surveillance photos from the corridor of a Washington, D.C. hotel. That does not excuse what he did. What he did was a federal crime. What he did was an act of political terrorism. What he did, had it succeeded, would have been one of the darkest days in American history. But it does demand that we ask honest questions about where we are as a nation, what we are building, and what kind of country we want to live in. Here is what happens next. Cole Thomas Allen has been arraigned in U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. Prosecutors are seeking pretrial detention. They want him held without bail. The charges against him carry a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. The Secret Service has launched an official review of its security protocols in the wake of the attack. The questions surrounding the Washington Hilton's layout, the hotel guest access points, and the interior stairwells that Allen allegedly used to move through the building are all now part of that review. The broader political fallout is still unfolding. Conversations about presidential security, about political violence, about the responsibilities of public figures and media organizations in the current climate, those conversations are not going away. And the surveillance photos, those frame-by-frame images of muzzle flashes in a hotel corridor on a Saturday night in April, will be entered into evidence. They will be shown in court. They will become part of the permanent historical record of a moment that by the narrowest of margins did not become the catastrophe it was intended to be. The president survived. The first lady was safe. The vice president was evacuated. The Secret Service agents did their job under fire, literally, and one of them took a shotgun blast to the chest and walked away because he was wearing a vest. Heroes are often invisible until the moment they aren't. That agent's name has not been widely publicized, but on the night of April 25th, 2026, he stood between a gunman and the most heavily protected room in Washington, D.C., and he held the line. That is the story. That is what happened. That is what the surveillance photos show, what the court filings reveal, what the manifesto says, what the timeline proves. And this is why NationPulse exists, because stories this significant, this complex, this layered deserve more than a 45-second clip in a Chiron. They deserve context. They deserve honesty. They deserve to be told to regular people in language that makes sense without being talked down to and without being manipulated. If you made it to the end of this video, you're the kind of person this channel was built for. You want to actually understand what's happening in this country, not just react to it. So here's what I need you to do right now. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next time something this important breaks. And drop a comment below. Tell me your honest reaction to what happened at the White House Correspondents Dinner. Do you think security failed? Do you think this is a sign of something bigger? Do you think the political climate in this country is getting better or worse? Your voice matters here. This is NationPulse, and we will be watching.